3 days before Thanksgiving, my mother sent a group text to the entire family saying I wouldn't be attending this year because, in her words, my situation wasn't appropriate for the table. 2 hours after I read that text, alone in my apartment eating cereal for dinner, my phone rang, and it was my boss calling to tell me I'd just been made vice president of the entire division. If you've ever been counted out by the people who were supposed to count on you the most, hit like and subscribe right now because you're gonna want to see how this one ends. Comment below and tell me the pettiest thing a family member has ever done to you around a holiday table. I read all of them. Now, let me back up. My name is Sophie Malone. I'm 28, and for the past 3 years, I'd been working the floor at a home goods retail store during the day while finishing my MBA at night, a decision that made sense to exactly no one in my family except me. My parents, David and Linda Malone, run a successful insurance brokerage. Comfortable, respectable, the kind of comfortable that makes people forget what it felt like before they had it. My older sister, Katrina, works as a dental hygienist. Married, a house in the suburbs, 2 kids, the kind of life my mother describes at every family gathering as exactly what a daughter should build. I loved my family. I also, for 3 years, watched them slowly stop introducing me by name at gatherings and start introducing me by apology. This is Sophie. She's still figuring things out, my mother told her book club at a dinner 2 years ago while I stood there holding a serving dish. Sophie's between things, she told my aunt at a wedding last spring, as though my retail job and the graduate degree I was quietly grinding through at 11 o'clock every night simply didn't count as things. My father was gentler about it, but no less dismissive. Whenever I mentioned coursework, strategy cases, a paper on organizational behavior I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. finishing, he'd nod politely and change the subject to Katrina's kids' school pageant, or the new patio furniture, or anything that felt safely finished, rather than uncomfortably in progress. The retail job paid the bills while I finished my degree debt-free, working nights and weekends around a schedule that would have broken most people. I chose it deliberately. I'd watched too many classmates graduate with 6 figures of debt and no leverage to negotiate anything. I wanted to walk into my first real offer with a clean slate and a finished degree, even if it meant 3 years of my family treating me like I was standing still. What none of them knew, because I'd stopped bothering to explain it after the 3rd or 4th comment, was that 8 months earlier, I'd taken an entry-level analyst position at a logistics and supply chain company called Meridian Fulfillment, working there in addition to retail and school, because the experience mattered more to me at that stage. I'd been promoted twice already in 8 months. My manager had started giving me projects meant for people with 5 more years of experience than I had. The group text came on a Monday, 3 days before Thanksgiving. My mother's message read, "Family, wanted to give everyone a heads up that this year's Thanksgiving will be smaller, just close family. Sophie, given your current situation, I think it's best you sit this one out. We'll see you at Christmas when things are more settled." 22 words that managed to erase 3 years of 16-hour days in one text message thread, including my aunts, my cousins, and my grandmother. I called my mother immediately, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. "What situation, Mom? I have a job, 2 jobs. I'm finishing my degree next month." My mother sighed, the specific sigh she reserves for conversations she's already decided the outcome of. "Sophie, sweetheart, you work retail. We just don't think this is the year to explain all of that to your grandmother and the extended family. It's not appropriate for the table right now. Maybe once you've got something more settled to talk about." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Thanksgiving morning, alone in my 1-bedroom apartment, I made myself a bowl of cereal because I hadn't planned any groceries around a holiday I wasn't supposed to be excluded from, and I sat at my small kitchen table scrolling through photos my cousins were already posting from the family gathering I'd been erased from. Around 6 p.m. that evening, my phone rang. It was my manager at Meridian, Devin Park.
"Sophie, I'm sorry to call on a holiday," Devin said, "but I wanted you to hear this before Monday's staff meeting, and honestly, I couldn't wait. He explained that the division's outgoing VP of operations had accepted an offer elsewhere effective immediately, and that after reviewing the last 8 months of my project work, leadership had unanimously decided to offer me the position, not as a stopgap, but as the permanent hire. "You're the youngest person we've ever put in this seat," he said, "and honestly, the least experienced on paper. But you're the best analyst I've worked with in 15 years, and the numbers back that up completely." He put me on speaker so 2 of the senior directors could congratulate me directly. I sat in my kitchen, cereal going soft in the bowl, crying the kind of tears that don't know whether they're happy or furious. Probably both. I didn't call my family that night. I didn't post anything. I let the news sit quietly with me for exactly 1 week, the way I'd let 3 years of dismissal sit quietly, because I'd learned something in that time. The people who erase your progress rarely deserve to be the first to hear about your wins. Christmas came, and with it, the invitation my mother had promised, the one where things would be more settled. I arrived at my parents' house with my degree conferral letter in my bag and my new company badge clipped to my jacket, the one that read Sophie Malone, Vice President of Operations, Meridian Fulfillment. My mother noticed it almost immediately, the way mothers notice everything they've decided not to ask about directly. "What's this?" she asked, gesturing at the badge with the same tone she'd have used for an unfamiliar stain. "That's my job, Mom, the one you didn't think was appropriate for the holiday table. I got promoted to vice president 3 days before Thanksgiving, the same day you uninvited me." The table went quiet. My sister Katrina set down her fork. My father, to his credit, actually asked, genuinely, "Vice president of what exactly?" And I explained it, clearly, without apology, for the first time in 3 years. Operations for an entire logistics division, 40 people reporting up through my team, a salary that, as it turned out, now outpaced both my father's brokerage income and my sister's household combined. My mother's face did something complicated, embarrassment and pride, and something that looked almost like grief. Grief for 3 years of holidays she'd spent quietly editing my daughter out of family conversations because the unfinished version of my life had been inconvenient to explain. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked, quieter now. "I tried, for 3 years. You just kept deciding I wasn't done becoming someone worth listening to yet." My father spoke next, and his voice had an edge to it I'd never heard directed at my mother before. "Linda, she was working 2 jobs and finishing a graduate degree, and we told her she wasn't appropriate for a holiday table?" My mother started to explain herself, the same tired explanation about not wanting to embarrass anyone in front of extended family, but the words seemed to run out somewhere in the middle of the sentence, as though even she could hear how thin they'd become. I didn't storm out. I didn't need to anymore. I stayed for the rest of Christmas dinner, and I let the silence between the old version of my family's story and the new one do most of the work. Over the following months, something shifted, slowly, imperfectly. My mother started asking real questions about my work instead of changing the subject. My father asked me to explain a supply chain decision I'd made, actually listened to the answer, and told me it was smarter than anything he'd have done in my position. My sister, to my surprise, was the one who apologized most directly, telling me over coffee a few weeks ago that she'd let my mother's narrative about me go unquestioned for years because it was easier than being the one to push back. This past Thanksgiving, 1 year later, I hosted at my own apartment, the same 1-bedroom I'd sat alone in the year before. My whole family came. My mother brought a pie and, for the first time in longer than I can remember, introduced me to her sister, not with an apology in her voice, but simply as, "This is my daughter, Sophie. She runs an entire division at Meridian." I think about that Thanksgiving I spent alone more than I probably should, not because it still hurts exactly, but because it taught me something important. Sometimes the people closest to you can only see the parts of your story that are already finished, and it's not your job to shrink the unfinished parts down to something more comfortable for their table. Has your family ever counted you out right before you proved them wrong? Tell me about it in the comments. I read every one. And if this story felt familiar, share it with someone who's still working quietly on their own version of that phone call. Until next time, this is Sophie, reminding you that the table doesn't get to decide who's appropriate. You do.